Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. So just so you know, this video does contain some Eleague spoilers, so please stop watching now if you wish to watch all of the VODs of the tournaments and don't want it spoiled. Is that warning good enough? Anyway, first of all, congratulations to Misfits for winning the Eleague Overwatch Open on Friday night. Took a lot of people by surprise, including ourselves, and speaking of which, there are a lot of things to discuss with the tournament, both in terms of Overwatch as an esports, tips and tricks to try for yourself in your own games, and general problematic things that Overwatch may run into. So in this video, we're going to go over some things that we learned from watching Eleague.
The first thing that we learned was how close a lot of the teams are in terms of how they play and their skill. Nobody could have expected Misfits to be the ones to win the lucrative prize pool. Most people had their money on the likes of Envious, Fnatic and Rogue. It came as a real shock, honestly, but that's a good thing to have in terms of a competitive scene between the major teams. If one team was constantly winning, watching Overwatch esports just wouldn't be as fun. What makes it more interesting is that Misfits went down to the loser brackets and fought their way back up to win the whole thing. It was a real underdog story, and it's nice to see that Overwatch can have those kinds of giant killings.
Next up is Mei, and how she became one of the most popular heroes on defense for attack and defense. Mei was used a lot. We're not entirely sure how much, but no doubt Captain Planet and Planet Overwatch will have the statistics soon enough for you to check out. But Mei was the queen of sustain and control of the objectives, and so frequently we saw her and her ultimate put a stop to the enemy's attacks. We did expect to see some Mei, especially with the likes of Tavik and Seagull in the tournament, but we were honestly blown away with how often she was used. Ask Joshy hit the nail on the head when he tweeted out saying that Mei was acting like another tank, being able to stay on the point and contest for so long. It's certainly given us more food for thought on whether Mei is viable for your own picks in your own ranked games, but we'll talk about that some other time, as there's plenty more things to go over in terms of she's been used in these tournaments, therefore she is good.
The first is more of a pet peeve than a problem in itself. There is a huge gap in competition between the American teams and European, so please don't put them in separate groups. For those that don't know, the finals were between the best team in the US and the best team in the EU bracket, so to say. Most of you that follow the esports scene will know that the American teams have a gulf in class between Envious and the other American organizations. That's not to say the other teams are bad, just that Envious in the pool of teams are on another level kinda. The EU scene, however, is much more competitive and essentially anybody can beat anybody. The EU matches were much more interesting to watch than the US ones, as there were some real upsets. Or maybe that's just because we're European, but honestly we really enjoyed watching it. Anyway, back to talking about the tournament structure. So for example, the ESL Atlantic Showdown featured 2 EU teams in the final, so surely the best 2 teams out of both NA and EU should reach the finals, not just one from each area. It was something we felt held the tournament back as a whole, and we'd appreciate to not see this format again, to be honest. It definitely didn't ruin the whole event, but I don't think it's a format we should keep up.
Next up, we want to talk about how the meta is quite unhealthy right now. It's in an interesting place with a lot of emphasis being put on the tank heroes. We know that Blizzard plans to quell the triple tanks meta by nerfing Ana slightly, and if that doesn't work, they will do other things down the line. But it's generally interesting the way the meta has gone. Reinhardt, Roadhog, Zarya and Winston all get used fairly regularly, and the combination of said tanks can be mixed and matched, which is incredibly healthy to have in any role. But in terms of the overall meta, it's not a good thing. Whilst none of these tanks were used 100% of the time or even anywhere close across all of the maps, it still left defense heroes out in the cold, which is a huge surprise. Apart from the major use of Reaper and a few times that we've seen Tracer, Pharah, Genji and co, it's been swamped with the big beefy characters, and those that can do a lot of damage very quickly to said beefy characters. We'd say that now is definitely a good time to practice these tanks. Roadhog, Zarya and Reinhardt can all do huge work on their own, so if you can play Zarya and Roadhog specifically in your own ranked games, then you definitely should do. Miska's been playing a lot of Zarya recently, and it seems to have worked pretty well for him. Just keep an eye on what major changes will happen, what it will do to the tank meta overall, and then check what's the meta when we go around to do it. There's no doubt Blizzard are looking at this and they really want to change it as soon as they can.
Lastly, Overwatch can be a major esport, but it needs to sort out its watchability, so to say. Overwatch is a successful game because it reaches out to those of all skill levels and all backgrounds. It doesn't really matter whether you're new to FPS games or have spent the last 10 years playing TF2 or Counter-Strike. Overwatch has something for you. But lots of people have said that watching Overwatch can be incredibly hard to follow due to its speed, the UI and the clutter of abilities. We've spoken at length of the changes to the spectator mode, game statistics and information for casters, as well as other UI changes changes that it's not worth bringing up again, really, but it's frustrating as we all feel that Blizzard are so close to making Overwatch a real contender for a major esport. But it really needs to iron out those creases in terms of how the game is spectated by a viewer, because in short, if the game isn't engaging for the casual viewer, then it's not going to grab those huge audiences. Like we said, we have some upcoming spectator changes, but just seeing more and more of these quite soon would be very healthy for the game.
Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. Do let us know what you think of Eleague, what you thought, who were you hoping would win the tournament, and what you learnt from watching these pros. Thanks again for watching, take care, and we'll see you next time.